do you want to get dressed in a gorgeous twist front dress like this one? Well, I can show you how to make it. It's very simple. Not only is it simple, but it's head turning. So stick with me and I'll show you how. Hi, I'm Aletha with Ribbons and Zippers. Welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, I am so glad that you stopped by. Welcome, welcome. Today I am going to show you how to sew this gorgeous twist front dress. It's so gorgeous, it's so simple. I love it and I think you will too. So stick with me. Okay, so for this pattern, I'm going to lay it out and it's going to be two-sided. It's going to have a dark side and a light side. And if you need the pattern, click on the link above so that you can get the full instructions. Okay, so let's begin. I'm going to cut out my red side first. So I am going to cut out a single layer of fabric, the red side first. As you can see, I made some fit adjustments to the back bodice pattern that I will address later in another video, but in the meantime, I'm going to make sure that it's perfectly even with the selvage. Okay, so now I'm also going to cut out the front red section of my dress, and I'm also going to go ahead and cut out my facings as well. Okay, so now I'm on the black side. I'm going to repeat the same process that I did for the red side of my dress, and I'm doing everything in single layers. I just want to point out how easy it is to create the facing for your dress. You just go ahead and lay the pattern paper over your pattern and trace about 1.5 to 2 inches, maybe 3, depending on how much you like it, but I did 2 inches, and then that's it. Now that I have all of my pieces cut out, I have my dark side, my front and back, and I also have my red side, my front and my back, and I have all of my small pieces, which is my facings. So I have the facings here. So I separated everything to make sure that I keep them nice and separated so that I will not get mixed up at all. That's very important. And now the next thing to do is to put this aside and go ahead and cut out my interfacing. So I'm going to interface the facing only with a nice lightweight interfacing. So I still have here the pattern pieces for the interfacing, so I'm just going to go ahead and cut it out. Okay, so now I am using this interfacing that you can get on Amazon. It's a really nice lightweight interfacing. This is the product and I love it because it's so lightweight, it's woven, it goes with a lot of my nice special occasion fabrics. And what I need you to do is to line up your interfacing with the grain line. That's very important. But also bring over your fabric, your facing fabric that you just cut out, and line that up as well. Line it up the wrong side to the adhesive side of the interfacing. That's very important so that you will not get confused. And then take it over to your iron and make sure you iron the wrong side to the adhesive side. Now it's time to start sewing the pieces. I've separated my pieces and put them together here. I have my back side with my facings, and I also have the front of my dress with the facings. And I'm going to go ahead and put the front of the dress to the side and work on my back piece. The first thing I did was address some fit issues, and I did talk about that already. Because of my shape, I had to do some contouring to my back bodice, but I promise I will address how to fix fit issues in another video. So let's go ahead and get started by putting our facings together. Okay, so let's go over to the machine and start by attaching our armhole facing. Okay, so here is my armhole facing. I'm going to go ahead and attach it at the shoulder seam. So this is my back, this is my front, and at the shoulder seam, I'm going to do a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And I'm going to go ahead and do that for my armhole facing as well as my front facing and my back facing. And then once I'm finished, I'm going to take it over to my serger and finish the outer part of the raw edge. And you can do that as well with a pinking shear or any other type of binding to finish your raw edge. Alright, so I've attached my armhole facing at the shoulder 1/2 inch. I finished it with a beautiful serge stitch along the raw edge, and I've also did the same thing for my front and back facing. And you can tell that this is the back facing because it has the bend here. So it came out really nice. This is the back and front facing. And what I'm going to do now is put this to the side, and I am going to go ahead and work on my shoulder seam. So this is my back and front. The back, I've already worked on my back. Here's my dart. Now what I'm going to do is the shoulder seam. I'm going to attach it to my front. So here's my front. This is the front of my dress. You can tell because it has the waist cut out. So this is the front. Now notice the front shoulder seam as compared to the back shoulder seam. So you can see it's a bit bigger, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to gather the front shoulder seam to match the width of the back shoulder seam. So I'm going to go ahead and create a gathering stitch along here, and I'm going to use my widest stitch length to do that. So on the machine, make sure that you change your stitch length from regular to a wide stitch length. Okay, so here's my 2 gathering stitches. It's a double stitch. I'm going to just go ahead and gather it. So pull the string and gather your stitch nice and evenly across the front shoulder seam. So make sure that gathers are nice and even and pretty. And then I want to go ahead and make sure that the width matches my front shoulder seam. So I'm just putting it together and making sure that it matches. After you pin it together, then just go ahead and with a regular stitch, make a 1/2 inch seam allowance across the shoulder. Now I'm going to attach my armhole facing to my dress with a 1/2 inch seam allowance, and I'm also going to attach my front and back facing to my dress with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So once I do that, then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to understitch. That's very important when you want your garment to look nice and professional. Before I go ahead and create my understitching, here's my pinking shears. I'm going to trim my seam allowance in half with my pinking shears. So let's do that. That's very important. You want to trim it down some because you want to reduce any bulk. Okay, so I finished trimming, and as you can see, I also made my triangle notches. So I made a few triangle notches along the trimmed seam. So now what I'm going to do is go ahead and turn my facing up and outward. So all the way around, up and outward. And then I'm going to take it over to my iron and iron it nice and flat. So I want to make sure that when I do my underlining, that the fabric turns like this, under and inside, so it will not be seen. And then I'll come back to the machine and make a nice understitch. All right, so now I am going to sew with the regular stitch only my facing and my seam all the way around, close to my dress but not catching my dress. And this is going to create a nice understitching. Now for the front and back facing. We are going to attach the front and back facing to our dress, and we're going to make a 1/2 inch seam. But we are going to stop along the back of our dress at a certain point. So right here where the dress bends to go straight down, where I will attach my zipper, I'm going to put a mark. So I'm going to find a mark right at the bend, and I'm going to come in 1/2 inch away from the raw edge, and I'm going to go ahead and put a mark. Okay, so here is where I am going to stop sewing, right here. Okay, so I'm going to stitch 1/2 of an inch all the way to here, and I'm going to leave the rest of the facing loose. I will not attach it. We'll make our 1/2 inch seam allowance along our front and back facing, and we'll stop at our mark. Okay, so I have completed attaching all of the pieces for one side of my dress. This is the dark side, and this is the front of the dress. Now let's take a look at the inside of the dress. Let's go over what we've done. So here is my armhole. It's a curved armhole. So remember, it's curved, so we had to put notches so that the curve would be nice and smooth. And we did a nice understitching, so that's beautiful. That came out great. And also the front facing. So here is my front, and here is my waist seam, which we're going to work on in a few minutes. But we're going to do that twist, and you'll see how it's done. But I just wanted to show you my front facing. So the front facing goes all the way down the front, and it aligns on the front of the dress, and it goes all the way down, and it is parallel with my front seam where the waist cutout is. So that's important. Now also, I want to talk about the zipper on the back. So here's my back, and here's my facing, and here's the opening. So this is where we stopped, and we're not going to go any further than here on the back as yet. We're going to go ahead and work on the front. So the back I'm going to save for later, but this is where we stopped. I have put together the other side of my dress, which is the red side. I did it exactly the way that I did the black side. So I have two duplicate pieces, one side, left side and right side. And here is my opening. So now we're going to talk about the opening and the twist. Okay? So what we're going to do is we are going to reinforce the seam so that it won't tear. So what we're going to do is we are going to turn it in 1/4 of an inch. So let's locate the first notch. The first notch is about 2 inches from the opening, and we're going to locate that first notch, and we are going to sew across the opening from one notch all the way over to the other notch, and we are going to sew about 1/4 of an inch. So we are creating a very narrow hem all the way from one notch to the other notch. And we're going to edge stitch it, okay? Okay, so here we have it. We have our beautiful little hem that's edge stitched from one notch to the other notch, and it's about 2 inches away from our opening, and that's all we're going to do for now. This came out really beautiful. The next step is to close up the waistline. Okay, so now that we have reinforced our opening, the next step is to match the notches. So we're going to go ahead and find the notches on the side waist slit, and we're going to match them right sides to right side, and I'm going to sew this up with a 1/2 inch seam allowance all the way from one notch to the other notch. Actually, I'm going to go in about 1/2 of an inch towards the center. All right, so I'm going to close this up and I will be right back. Okay, so I sewed my seam about 1/2 inch away or in from my first notch. So I started here and I sewed all the way to the end, matching my notches, and I created a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Okay, so here's my opening, and I sewed that seam, so it looks pretty good. So the seam is done 1/2 inch away from the first notch all the way down to the end. Okay, so now I'm going to finish my seam with my serger, and I'm going to press it down towards my hem, and when I come back I'm going to show you how we get that twist front look. Okay everyone, but before we continue, I'd like for you to like and subscribe, but don't forget to hit that bell because I want you to be informed whenever I create something special for you. Alright, so here's our seam, finished so beautifully, and we have our opening here. I could even put my finger through it. Again, we stopped 1/2 of an inch in, and now I've pressed it down towards the hem. So how do I get that twist front look? So the next thing I need to do is take my left side, the left side of my dress, and what I'm going to do is so here's the left side of my dress. Okay, this is the left side. Center front to center front. And here's the opening of the left side of my dress. So what I'm going to do is take the left side and put it through that opening. All right. So now that my left side is through, what I want to do is I am going to now do the same thing with the left side of my dress that I did to the right side. I'm going to sew this opening closed with a 1/2 inch seam allowance, and I'm going to go in about a 1/2 inch in from my notch. Then I'm going to finish that seam and press it down. Okay guys, so here we have it. It's beautiful. So we've finished our seam. We pressed it down. So this is what the front looks like. Okay, so it really looks like it's twisted. It's beautiful. So now that we've done the front seam, which is our waist seam, okay, we finished it, we pressed it down. Let's move to the back of the dress. So we're going to finish our raw seam and press it down towards the hem. So this is the back of the dress. Now, one thing that I'm going to say for the back of the dress is I want you to go ahead and finish your center back seam on one side and finish your center back seam on the other side. Do not put it together. Just do a finished seam on one side and a finished seam on the other side. Okay, so here is the dress. The twist looks very pretty, but let's take a look at the inside of the dress. So we did sew down our seam for the waist. We finished it, we pressed it down, it looks very nice, and we finished our seam for our center back. But these flaps, these are the facings, we didn't sew. We only sewed the center back. So we're going to need to put our zipper in, and we're going to need to address the facing. I have a video for a simple installation for a zipper. So take a look at how to put the zipper in, and I'm going to fast forward and move on to the next step. Okay, so now that we have our zipper installed, it came out great. Here it is. It's an invisible zipper. It's nice and flat. It looks really good. Here's the waist seams. They match up perfectly. So now it's time to address the facing. So we're going to turn it over and we're going to attach the facing. So the facing we left loose, we didn't attach it. So there's going to be two ways that you can do this. I can sew it by hand, or I can use the machine. But for this video, I am going to use the machine. Okay, so here is my zipper tape. The top of the zipper tape I did not sew down, it's loose here. So I'm going to flip my facing over so that it's on the other side. And what I'm going to do is make sure that that zipper tape is always sticking out and that the edge of my dress and my facing match. So here's my zipper tape. It's out. It's not on the outside of the dress, it's on the inside. And so what I'm going to do is take some pins and I'm going to pin the facing to the edge of my dress all the way down. You want to make sure that everything is even, the zipper tape, the dress, and the facing all the way down, and just keep pinning. And as you can see, the zipper tape at the top is still sticking out. It's on the inside of the dress. So I'm just going to sew from the top of my dress, or the top of the zipper tape, all the way down to the end. Now for this process, I'm going to be using a regular zipper foot, and I'm just going to sew all the way down to the end of the facing. Okay, so now that we've installed our invisible zipper and the facing for the back, we are going to match our side seams and sew that together. So we're going to match the armhole seam at the top. We're going to match the waist seam, and we're going to match the hip. There's a notch there that I put on the hip, and we're going to sew this seam from top to bottom, and then I'm going to finish it with my serger, and I'll return. Alright, so now it's time for some finishing touches. We're going to finish the front seam, the slit here. The slit is rather long. It goes all the way up to the waist, and it needs to be finished with the serger. And so I am going to do that, and then I will come back and show you some more finishing touches. I'm also going to finish my hem with the serger as well. Okay, so we have a few more steps before I go ahead and complete the whole look of the dress. So you've done your inside side seam, okay? So now let's move on to some final details. So what I've done, I started on this side, is I've attached my facing to my dress with a beautiful stitch. I used a herringbone stitch to attach this, and as you can see, there's no threads showing through my dress on either side. And I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do a herringbone stitch. It's very simple, but what it does is allows the dress to still move. The herringbone stitches, you can barely see it, and it's a beautiful stitch for this dress. Okay, so I'm just going to show you very quickly how to do this stitch. Now, if you are right-handed, you are going to sew from left to right, and if you are left-handed, you're going to go from, so if you're right-handed like I am, you're going to sew from left to right. If you're left-handed, you're going to go from right to left, and it's very easy to do. Now, the most important thing that you want to remember is that this represents the dress. This represents my facing or my hem. It's not going to be seen on the other side of the dress. Okay, so it's a very simple stitch. It's called the herringbone stitch. So what you want to do is you want to start maybe a 1/4 of an inch on your facing or your hem, and you want to go above your facing or your hem, and you want to pick up a thread. Okay, just pick up a thread. Okay, so this is what it's going to look like. You are just picking up a small piece of thread on your fashion fabric or the dress, just 1 or 2 pieces of thread from your dress, so it will look like that, and then a few pieces of fabric from your lining or your hem, and you just keep doing that all the way across, and that is called a herringbone stitch. Very easy to do. And so what's going to happen is on the other side, you do not see the stitch at all. You don't, it's invisible, you can't see anything. And that's what I've done on my dress. The herringbone blends in because I used black silk thread on the inside, and on the other side you can't see any of the stitches. Once I finish attaching my facing, I want to make sure that this does not move. You see? I want to make sure that it doesn't come out when I'm walking or if I'm sitting. So what I want to do is take the 2 facings and put them together inside the dress, and I want to attach them together. All right, so here's one facing. This is the one I didn't do yet. I will be attaching this down, and here is the other facing. So I want you to put those 2 together, and I want to sew them with a hand stitch, just something to attach those 2 pieces together so that the dress will not rise up or move. Okay, right at the very end of my facing, once it's attached down, the 2 pieces facing down is, I am going to just with a hand stitch, something very light, I am going to attach them together. Okay, so now the very last thing that I'm going to do, and I showed you how to attach the 2 facings together on the inside of the dress underneath. Now what you're going to do, this is a huge slit. It goes all the way up to the waist, and I don't want my slit to go all the way up to my crotch area or my waist. So what I'm going to do is I am going to attach my 2 seams together. Not too close. I'm going to give it some room to move. 2 inches down from my facing, I am going to sew a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Okay, so that I close up my slit, and then I'm just going to have a slit at the bottom of my dress. And then that's it. I'll be done. I'll be finished doing all of the small details to make the dress refined, and then I'm done. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I can't wait to see you in the next one.